do in the winter.
Hello and welcome to this, the first of several podcasts from here in the Isle of Mull. Thank you so much for having chosen to listen to this podcast out of the billions on offer. Really appreciate it. The aim of these podcasts is to share a little bit of information in the lives of some of the people who live and work here on the islands of Mull, Iona and Alva and Gomatra. It's always great to meet up with people from far away, but very often people ask us odd, repetitive questions about what's it like to live on an island and how do you survive living so far away from civilization? Well, we've all kind of got fed up with those things, and I thought I'd like to find a way to address this. So I want to offer an insight into people's lives from here to people from elsewhere, and even those that live here, just to give a bit more perspective on your friends and neighbours' lives. I think what I wanted to do was locate us all in a kind of global perspective. Mull and Iona and Alva and Gomatra are made up of a diverse range of people, many of whom had the most extraordinary lives, both here and across the world. And some of the people we'll talk to over the coming podcasts are native Muluks. Others have come here from both near and far away. I'm Alistair Satchell, and I'll be your host throughout the following episodes. I work in theatre and film, and I'm based here in Mull, outside of Dervig in the north end of the island. I originally moved to Mull from Dunoon about 12 years ago, and I've made my home here, and started a family and built a house, and I love it here, and I love living here, but I work wherever the wind blows, this is home. I'm fascinated by our history and culture. I've learnt Gaelic through Salma Rostig's distance learning courses. Na Cursichan Intrigi is Urstish, so there may be the odd wee word or phrase of Gaelic here and there. If there's any longer sections in Gaelic, I'll put up translations on the website for you to have a look at later. I'll put any references and supporting materials up on the website too. Things like photos of the specific items that are mentioned, or pictures of the interviewee themselves as well. I want the podcast to all feel individual and different to each other, so I'm recording the interviewees in their homes or their workplace or spaces associated with them. I want to capture the acoustic environments of their places, as well as the person themselves, so you can get a feeling of them in their space. I'm going to break the podcast up into chunks so it's not too much to listen to in one go. Every now and again I might drop in and out a little bit to add a bit more information here and there, such as something the interviewee talks about, or more than likely to correct a mistake I've made, such as in this one where I talk about the Gaelic poet Alistair MacVeister Alistair, but I call him Alistair MacMeister Alistair, so I do apologise any Gaelic scholars listening at all. I've been inspired to make these podcasts by a number of sources. I've really enjoyed listening to podcasts by people who have something to explore around a subject, and I've particularly enjoyed listening to podcasts where people chat to each other in a relaxed and natural way. So what you hear from me won't really be traditional radio-style presenting, but more me yattering on with a participant. One of the particular influences I'd really like to mention is the work of Timothy Neate. Timothy Neate is a filmmaker, writer and art historian. The Voice of the Bard and When I Was Young, Islands and Highlands, those books have had a massive impact on me. They capture elements of the lives of our cultural custodians that come off the page in a most engaging way. I'd like to thank the Island Bakery, who have sponsored the podcast. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. If you want to visit their website, you can see it on islandbakery.co.uk. They have a host of biscuits available, all made here in Mull, organically as well. And our particular favourite is the lemon melt. And they also do some fine gluten-free biscuits as well. So if you get a chance, try their biscuits. You can get them in any shop, pretty much anywhere nowadays. Thank you. Anyway, that's enough waffle from me in this really rotten windy day. I don't know if you can hear the rain battering down the window outside my office. It's pretty grim today. I'm delighted to say that our first guest on the podcast is Duncan MacGilp. Duncan was born in Tobermory in 1925. At the time of the recording, at the end of August in 2018, he was 92 years old. But now it's September, he's 93 years old. Duncan is a well-known Gaelic singer and mod medalist, but also on Mull he's known here for many reasons, not least of which was the garage he ran in Tobermory for many years. Duncan will take us through tales of his time here as a boy, including one of the best spots for poaching salmon, the lives of his parents, his working life, his wartime service, and we'll touch on several other topics as well. At the end of the session, Duncan asks when we can meet up again, so I'm hoping to return in the coming weeks to catch up with him and hear more of his life and find out more about the characters of the island in times past. Caillou, Shaw Duncan MacGilp, Morantang.
That's a very useful device if you're standing beside a pool in a river and you want to know there's fish in it.
Really?
Clap your hands And if there's a big fish in it, there'll be an arrowhead.
Really?
You don't need to shout at all. Nobody knows you're there except the fish.
That's very good. Down where we are, down at Kiankuan, at the Narrows there,
Yes.
I quite frequently make echoing noises because I'm so fascinated by the way it's like the landscape is kind of ringing and talking. And
I see, right.
there's one at the head of the lochs, the Mishnish Lochs as well.
What?
There's an echo point at the top of Mishnish Lochs, and when it's frozen, it just pings forever.
The end near is Derrig.
Yeah.
I frequently camped there. I lived with my mother before I was married, and she had two children, her daughter and another son. And they were both married, so for a fortnight in the summertime, my mother would go and spend a fortnight with one couple, and then another fortnight. So for 4 weeks, the house was not used at all. So I just locked the key, threw something to the cat, and took my tent up to the far end of the Mishnish Loch. There's a wee pebble beach and a lovely grass sward. I used to camp there for a month.
It's a fantastic spot.
And go down to my work in the garage. At that time I was working for Dol Langemull. Dol Langemull. Do you know of Dol Langemull? His parents farmed Langemull, and he was born and brought up in Langemull. Dol Langemull.
Aye.
You're a remarkable man. Tremendous brain for radio, radar, television. He was before anything else. And he ran the garage, and I learned an awful lot from him. We worked together for 8 years.
In Tobermory, or?
In Tobermory, yes. I came home. My parents were getting older and frailer, and my father was very asthmatic. Mm-hmm. So I wrote to Donald and asked if there was any chance of getting a job in the garage. And he wrote about it, come as soon as you can. So I worked with Donald for 8 years, and we went fishing and poaching, as well as the garage work. Mm-hmm.
Where were the best places to go poaching?
The Mingery Burn.
Really? What did you catch? Was it mostly trout or
Salmon.
Oh, right. Fantastic.
Now, there's a sea pool which is not productive. There's a pool above that which is. And looking upstream, under the left-hand bank, there's a place that they lie. The biggest fish I ever saw in the river was there. It's not a big pool, but they decided to try and get this one. So my brother Donald, my older brother, was home on holiday, so I knew he would be interested, and he was. So I said, I'll get a snare from the garage out to beside the house, and we'll go there tonight. So we went, a huge fish. Didn't use the snare, but we thought we managed to do it with our hands. No chance. I'd been in the pool along with this fish in the afternoon, and when he moved, the pressure in my ears was just like thunder. And I had touched him several times. I couldn't hold him. He was away at the other end of the pool, looking at me, wondering what I was playing on.
What's this two-leg thing? Yeah.
So we went out down in the afternoon, in the evening of the games day, and I had a snare from the garage. And he said, have you done this before? I said, no, I've done it many ways, but never this. He said, you can make 2 snares out of that one. Just split the strands between 2, and then we would have each of a snare. So we did that. He broke them both.
Blimey heck.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what kind of weight he was?
No, but I think it was about 12 pounds. He was huge. When he moved in the pool, you could see that the arrowhead above him. He was a big fish. I think he was about 12 pounds. But I never knew. I never saw him out except when he was... Donald had him out of the water several times, but he escaped each time. That was in the games evening. I went back next day after work with one snare, put my hand in under the bank. There was a fish. I took it out, killed it, and another one. 8 pounds and 4 pounds. Just from just under the bank. The left-hand bank looking upstream. Now that pool is very interesting because there's the remains of a fence going across the middle of it. And there was always a dispute whether the pool belonged to Glengoran or Queenish. And they could never settle this. However, that didn't bother me at all. I got the 2 fish out of the same place under the bank. 8 pounds and 4 pounds.
It's a lot of eating.
So very good.
My father-in-law, Bill, he used to guddle for trout in the burn, in the Bannock burn over in Stirling Way, where Rathlock where he's from. Yes. And he said he gave up when he was guddling one time and he got an eel. He went, yeah!
No, I don't like eels, no. They're too much like serpents.
Oh, they're horrible.
Yes, they are. But people in South England go crazy for them. Pickled eels.
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah.
Jellied eels.
No, and lampreys and things like that. No, thank you. No.
So I brought them home, one down each trouser leg on the motorbike.
So there'd be smoked salmon by the end of that.
So it was, I could get the motorbike to the burn, but higher up, where the forestry road goes across the burn now. I could get the motorbike to there, so it wasn't far to walk down beside it. And then the forestry planted it. And that was disaster because you had to fight your way through the trees.
Aye.
Mm-hmm. So thereafter, I went in by boat. It's a lovely place, Lochmingery.
Aye.
It's a lovely place, just beyond Arbor Point.
Were there ever any close calls with being caught for poachers?
No, I was looking out well beforehand, and no. But it's good fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when were you born?
1925, on the 18th of September.
Goodness me.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a birthday fairly soon then.
92.
92?
I'm 92 now.
That'll be 93, gosh.
If I see my birthday, I'll be 93.
And Dochas Gavin, I'm sure. That's phenomenal. Gosh, that's a long time. So, were your parents from here as well?
My father was from Derrick. He was born in the Bellacroy Hotel.
Really?
Yes, his parents who tenanted the hotel and Bellacroy Farm.
I've never heard tell of the Bellacroy Farm now.
No.
Where's is that the Mackay's field around
yes.
that? Aye.
On the hill, Kilmore Hill.
Ah.
And he was his father and my father were both experts in the breeding of Highland cattle. And I came across a medal in a drawer, and I didn't know whose it had been or what it had been. And eventually I saw presented to Duncan MacGilp, Bellacroy Farm, 1903.
Gosh.
So I gave it to Donald MacGilp. It was for a Highland bull, which he won at the Salen Show, Mull and Borvin Agricultural Society. So I gave the medal to Donald, and he got Charlie Hogg to make a wooden block of very beautiful wood and mounted it in this block. So it was to be gifted, presented to, I don't know who received it, because it wasn't at the Salen Show this year.
I'm not sure if it was Tom Nelson. He certainly shared something on Facebook about it, but I don't know if it was his own bull or not. I'm not sure if it was his bull. I'll try and find out for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Goodness me.
That would be just fine.
115 years old.
Because, pardon?
115 years old.
Yes, so it is. And it was tarnished, of course, but Donald polished it up, and we could make out the imprint of the history of it, and the date, and what it was for a Highland bull, 1903.
And so were your father's folks from here as well?
My father?
Yeah, were they from Dervig as well?
He was from Dervig. He was one of a family of 6, and he was the only one that married. So we had no cousins at all. But I married Morag, and as I said, she was very annoyed when I said it. It was like marrying into the children of Israel. She didn't think that was funny. But the grandfather was the farmer and the agriculturist, and he was factoring and managing several estates in the north end of Mull. And my father carried on doing this. He was a bank manager in a Clydesdale bank, but his heart was in agriculture and in breeding of Highland cattle. So he was known for his knowledge of Highland cattle, and he was in demand before the Highland Show. Mingaree used to have a lot of success in the Highland Show, wherever it was being held. And he was always invited by the manager to go and have a look at their selection of exhibits for the show, and he advised them, and they had a lot of success. He was very good in black-faced sheep also, and horses. He shouldn't have been a banker at all, but his mother was insistent that he would have an office job and have a collar and tie. But his heart wasn't in banking at all. And then his son, my oldest brother, he became a bank manager too in Stirling, in King Street branch, one of the well-known branches of the Clydesdale. Granny, Bella Roy, ran the hotel. A nice wee thing about her, when there was a special occasion, the dinner table was covered with white linen, and the only decoration that she would use was sprigs of staghorn moss on the white linen. This green moss with the wee sprigs. Do you know what it's like?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, it's sort of tenderly kind of.
Yes,
yeah.
Right. It grows very freely on the shore of the loch, at the top of the start of it. And it used to grow at the Dervig end of the Mishnich Loch, but I haven't seen it there for years now. But it used to grow among the heather there at Carnanamish. That's an interesting name.
Carnanamish, yeah, the cairn of the friendship or
meeting.
Of the meeting. Ah.
Carnanamish. Carnan, plural.
Plural.
There are 4 cairns in the bracken there. Beyond, going to Dervig, beyond Loch's cottage, which used to be occupied by John MacDougall and his wife or sister, Kirsty. He was a shepherd in Glengorum, and that's where they lived. And on the opposite side of the road from the cottage, you'll see there are walls. They had a croft there, from which they took hay and potatoes and all the other essentials. I don't know why they left it. I suppose that they probably got so old that they weren't able to fulfill the original function of shepherding, and they would have to move, and the wee cottage just fell into disuse.
When would they have left? Would that be the sort of 40s or 50s? Or?
Well, I came home from Glasgow to work with Duncan MacGilp in 1953. So it would be before then that they had left it, and it lay empty thereafter. A delightful old couple.
Returning back to your folks, Moira, your daughter mentioned a little bit about the journey that your mum had been on. Am I right in thinking that she'd come here as a young child? Is that right?
Yes.
Where was your mum from?
Campbelltown.
Goodness me.
And her father was Greek. Pure Greek. She was half Greek. I'm a quarter Greek.
Wow.
And her father went to sea as an engineer, and he worked with other engineers, of course, and the family. A friendship built up, and when they were going on holiday or whatever, her father brought this young engineer home with him, and this spark, and they married. I don't know when I could work it out. Anyway, they didn't last and didn't live very long. Father and mother died when she was 4 and 6, so she was an orphan.
That must have been incredibly difficult at that time.
Yes, it was, but she was fortunate in that her Auntie Margaret, who lived here, was married to the headmaster in the school, Levac.
Ah, right, okay.
He was from the north, from Caithness, and he had this strange name, Levac, that the Gaelic-speaking people couldn't pronounce.
Oh, right.
No, it wasn't like anything they had heard before. So they brought her up to Tobermory, and another aunt had heard my mother singing and thought that she was very musical. So her Auntie Margaret took this up, and they got the aunt in Campbellton to get a piano. Fantastic. And sent it up, and she was a wonderful pianist. She was a very gifted pianist. So, and she was a good singer too, and father was a very good bass.
Right.
Yes, so there was music from both sides, and all our brothers and sisters could sing or play something. Margaret played the piano, Donald, my older brother, played the mandolin, and latterly my younger brother, Norman, also played the mandolin. So we're a very musical family.
What were the gatherings like? Were the kind of big family Cayleys and house Cayleys? And
well, there were always other musical people coming to the house to join in, and we always welcomed them.
One of my favourite memories of this kind of thing, it's like from my own childhood, but certainly I know Ian Morrison and over at Irway, at Penmore Mill, and Colin, his son, have both talked about as young children sitting on the stairs listening to the Cayley going on down below.
That's right.
And the desire to be part of it, being too young to be part of it, but the feeling of belonging with that.
That's right.
I think that gives us so much of a sense of cultural belonging.
That's right.
That wanting to join in, but not being allowed to join in, and then joining in.
Joining and leading it.
And leading it as well. It's the other thing. It's quite something.
Ian's very musical.
Oh, he's blooming brilliant. Never tell him that, though.
What instruments do you play, Ian? Well, they want to know the ones that I play well or the ones that I play badly.
Playing with Ian on the fiddle is one of the loveliest things, because he's such a sensitive accompanist.
Yes.
He's just I've learnt so much from playing the fiddle here with, first of all, Callie, when he was on the box.
Yes.
See, playing with a bona fide master like Callie was just... It brings everyone up massively. I loved playing with him, but I also loved playing with Ian, because as much as I'll be carrying the melody, I'll be listening to what he's playing in the bass or whatever, and it's just... It's magic, and it's when it works.
Callie was a wonderful man.
I liked Callie a lot.
Aye.
He was a rogue. He was great. Yeah.
Do you know his tune, Lonely Ben Moore?
Yes, I think we played it with the Fiddlers one time. Yeah.
It's a beautiful tune. I think it's maybe the best that he wrote. He wrote a lot of very fine tunes.
I like his marches. I think they're quite good.
Yes.
The marches are good.
I like the slow airs most. There's a soul in slow airs that you don't find in marches, strathspeys and reels.
There's something, I would say there's something more of of the West Coast character in that. It's a sort of sense of longing and...
The first time I heard he played Lonely Benmore to me, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was just so lonely. He was painting in Bunnesson, and he was travelling to and fro, and every day as he passed the head of the Loch Streeton, he was looking at Benmore standing there on its own, Lonely Benmore.
And what was it like growing up here? What did you do for fun?
I worked.
From an early age?
Yes. I worked on a pier as a boy in school with the stevedores, and I got 10 shillings a week. I was the youngest person on my brain's payroll. And I worked with MacGilp.
Really? Over the other side? Was he over that way?
No.
He was at the Tobermory pier?
He was just next door.
Right.
And I spent a lot of time with him.
What was MacGilp like?
He was a very kind man. He was very small, immensely strong, unique in many ways. He was in the First World War at the age of 16. He was at the Dardanelles.
Oh, God.
Yes, survived.
Blooming heck.
His brother Johnny, who was known as McGregor, he finished up with ponies on Iona. But MacGilp was my favourite. I knew him very well. There's an old lady, Lola Bell. She was 92. She was 102 last Wednesday.
Goodness me.
And she and MacGilp were very friendly, just friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And they both sort of nurtured me as a young child, and they called me Wee Duncan. So when I write a wee birthday card, I said, "Love from Wee Duncan." They both called me Wee Duncan.
Goodness me.
MacGilp's language was very colourful. So much so that the chief engineer on the mill boat, Mr. Chalmers, took my father to task for allowing me to spend so much time in the company of this foul-mouthed man. And your boy learned a lot of bad language. Oh, my father, he'll learn that wherever he is. There's no scarcity of that. But he learned things from MacGilp that he wouldn't learn from anybody else. He was an expert horseman, shepherd, crackpot with a rifle.
Really?
Yes, and a boatman. Very talented man. When Commander Cotton bought the island of Calve, he left it in the care of his wife, to be advised by MacGilp, whose name was Alistair MacFarlane. She was a lovely person. She was killed in a road accident, and her daughter was also killed in the same road accident. And her mother was driving the car, and they were both on the same side of the car, both killed.
I was going to ask about MacGilp. Did MacGilp speak Gaelic and English?
Yes, he did. But my father always said, if you're going to learn to speak Gaelic, don't use MacGilp's Gaelic, because it's not grammatical at all. But he could make himself understood.
Yeah. No, I think that's been always of interest to me, that sense of someone's Gaelic being against someone else's Gaelic.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
My folks are from Colonsay,
Yes.
and my uncle, my dad's cousin, Neil Brown, went to school in Oban,
I see.
From Colonsay, and his teacher was always picking on him for saying, you've got Tinker's Gaelic,
yes.
And he really hated this. It just really got to him because that was his language, that was his culture, and so eventually he said to him, "But sir, was not the Bible first translated into Argyllshire Gaelic?" And this Lewisman said, "Aye, well, very good then," and that was the end of that.
Yes. No, there are people like that shouldn't have been allowed to teach children.
Yes.
Because it just discouraged them.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because that sort of stuff is fascinating. That's one of the reasons I love Gaelic so much, is that the words in Gaelic are so connected to the land, that it's rooted. And I love the idea that every word obviously is made of the alphabet, but there's a tree for each letter.
That's right. That's strange.
So that each word has roots in the ground and comes from. It's just it's an organic, beautiful thing. But were you brought up speaking Gaelic yourself as well?
No.
Right.
My mother had none.
Right.
Father was very fluent, could read and write, which was unusual. And he was a JP, and he occasionally called to speak for the plaintiffs in the courts, because he was bilingual.
Yeah.
But mother wasn't, and she didn't like Gaelic, so he didn't insist on the family being taught it, nor did he insist on speaking it himself, or to her. But she didn't like the language. But she was a very good accompanist, and she seemed to understand the mood of Gaelic songs, and her accompaniments mirrored this. So I don't know how she did that without actually understanding the words.
Getting the soul of it, maybe getting what's in it.
Something like that.
Let's talk then about your work, because do you want any water or anything at all?
No.
You said you started off on the pier as working with the stevedores, and you also said, you mentioned something about Bowmans. What and going to Glasgow as well. What did you do in Glasgow, and how did you come in to be involved with the Bowmans?
When I came out of the army, that was an important part of my life, because I was in the Commandos, not the Marine Commandos.
Aye.
In the original Commandos.
Did you train at Spean Bridge?
I was.
Blimey heck, I didn't know that.
Achnacari.
Wow, what was that experience like? That must have left an incredible...
That was great.
Yeah.
Oh, adventure.
Yeah.
And I wasn't seeing into the use of all this training, but I enjoyed the training. It was great.
Who were there any people in there in the Commandos with you that would know their names at all? Or?
Yes, Vernon Gunner. He was a great guy, and Jack Dorney was straight from London, and we paired off straight away. He was a hard man. That's right. I joined the army on the 4th of November, 1943. And I joined the Commandos on the 4th of November, 1944. And I was demobbed from the army on the 4th of November, 1947. It's quite remarkable.
Gosh. So did you go abroad with the work at all?
Yes.
Whereabouts were you? If you don't want to talk about this, I totally understand as well.
Just touch on it. France, Belgium, Holland, Germany, right up to the Kiel Canal, right through Germany, right up to the Kiel Canal. And after that, the war fizzled out, and I was posted to Italy. That was like a holiday.
I'm sure.
It was great. Trieste, Padua, Venice. Oh my goodness. I couldn't have asked for anything more.
What was Padua like? Because that was a university town, wasn't it?
Yes,
Padua?
Oh, very much so.
What was Padua like at the end of the war?
Well, it was they were all very glad to have us, because the war was over by then, and the enmity and the hostility was forgotten, and we were all helping one another. So it was like a holiday, really, and everybody was friendly.
Because that's something we don't talk about very much. But what was the transition period between the two like? Was it a fairly swift transition, or was there...
Quite gradual, but individually you had to choose. You had to choose to maintain the hostility or get on with your next door neighbour. Mm-hmm. Jack Dorney was a hard man. He'd been a bus driver in London. He was a great guy. We had quite a lot of water experience in Loch Lochy. You were jumping out of the landing craft and swimming ashore, but I couldn't swim.
Huh?
So don't worry, Mark. I'll be watching for you. And he was. Mm-hmm. And crossing the river Orchy, the river Lochy, just above the loch, quite near Achnacari. I said, on a single rope, I said, if I come off, I can't swim, Jack. It's all right, Mark. I'll be right in the next rope. If you fall in, I'll be in. I'll just come in beside you. He's a great guy, and tough as nails. And then Vern Gunner, dispatch rider, he's a very fine chap.
You were demobbed with the army in 47, was it, you said?
Yes.
Where did you go from there?
I came home to get my bearings again and decided to go for engineering. Up to that point, I'd been very interested in all forms of farming. And my father was very disappointed when I didn't follow this up.
That was his great passion in life.
Yes, it was. But I wanted to be an engineer, so I went. He wrote on my behalf to the Albion Works in Glasgow, and they agreed to give me an apprenticeship at my advanced stage, because apprentices were usually 16, 17.
So you were, what, 22?
23 or 4. Mm-hmm. So that worked out all right. There was a bit of opposition from the unions about this ex-soldier being allowed to start his apprenticeship, but it was all smoothed over, and I served my apprenticeship in the Albion Works in Glasgow.
What did the Albion Works make?
Albion lorries.
Ah, right, okay.
Commercial vehicles.
Right.
And they were good.
Yeah.
Yes. They were taken over by Leyland by that time they'd made their own reputation. So I came home when I knew I was going to have to leave the Albion Works. His father was really seriously ill, and mother was getting older. All my siblings were married or committed in other ways, so I decided it was up to me to get home and help them out. So I wrote to Donald MacLean and said that I completed my apprenticeship in Albion Works, Glasgow, and I was looking for an engineering job. I had a room for me in the garage. A reply came back, come as soon as you can, I need you. So I came back and I worked with Donald very happily for 8 years. And about that time I decided I would have to make a move. So I moved to the bus operator here, Mr. Cow, C-O-W-E.
Yes.
Alec Cow. Great big man with a huge heart. Very kind. So I worked with him for 4 years, I think.
Engineering or driving?
Engineering. Well, Jimmy Heron wrecked a very good lorry, and it was all out of alignment. So I decided it was too good to scrap this. If he would give me another job where I would be able to concentrate on stripping this lorry completely and rebuilding it. And I did that, and even to the extent of dismembering the chassis. I stripped everything, the cab, the whole thing, and rebuilt it. And there was inspector of commercial vehicles. Can't remember his name now, I should know it, it doesn't matter. He said, "Are you going to rebuild it?" I said, "Yes." "Right," he said. "It's got to be certified. And I'll go along with you, because I think you can do it, but I want this chassis reassembled by the Bamber Engineering Company in Glasgow. If you'll send it to them, I'll have no hesitation in passing it for you." And that's what happened. It was the separate bits, even the two long things and not the cross pieces. And the cab, it was cabinet made, carpenter made, so I rebuilt that.
You did the woodwork as well?
Pardon?
You did the woodwork as well?
The woodwork as well, yeah.
Goodness me.
Oh, it's just a different material. The stresses are all natural.
Yes, I will talk more about your work with wood in a moment or two as well.
So it worked out all right. So it was a good it was an Albion too. It was a good old truck, and they did a lot of work.
From working with the cows to then, when did you come to the garage here? When?
I can't remember a date, but I came home in 1953, and I worked with Sorley MacLean for 8 years, and then I went to Gaelic, and from there I retired from there and started the garage, because there wasn't a garage in Tobermory. The nearest garage was Alistair Kennedy in Salen.
Was that Ronnie's dad?
Ronnie's dad.
Oh, I didn't know that, right, okay.
What a character. Oh, he was a real character. So is Ronnie, but he's much quieter.
Ronnie's a gentleman.
Yes, aye. Alistair was an interesting character too. He was a chauffeur to a man Bridge, who owned Tenga. And Tenga was quite a big estate at that time, before the forestry got its hands on it. But Bridge had some big position in the city, because every new year we got a cheese, a Stilton cheese.
Fantastic.
And we discovered that Palmer's Waters biscuits and Stilton cheese were a great
The very dab.
So we got this cheese every new year, and my mother would order up a lot of Carr's Water biscuits or whatever.
Where had Langemull's garage been? Was that in town, or where was that?
Who?
Was it Donald Langemull that had the...
Yes. Where Duncan MacGilp has his outfitter shop.
Okay.
It had been a fisherman's store, and he, before I came, had dug out a pit and had planks across so we could get underneath. And that was quite a problem, because there was the tide on one side of you.
I was going to say, it's quite damp there as well, yeah.
And the river on the other side of you.
Aye.
And when you were down into the pit, you had to take a bucket with you to bail it out.
Oily, nasty. Yeah.
No, it was quite clean.
Oh,
I had to bail out the pit before you went down. And then you could take the planks down with you and build them up as the tide came in. That was rough work. And then working outside, we couldn't get we had a cooperative van every Wednesday for the whole day, and different ones every day. And we just had to work at them outside, so it was all very wet, very open here.
Oh, totally. And so did you build the structure that's there now for the garage?
No. John O'Hare had a cafe, and he was a very clever businessman and saw very far ahead, he decided that this wee garage of Donald MacLean's wasn't adequate. And when I moved to a lane behind Falcher, just to go up at the clock, I moved to a wee garage there, which is now converted and is being used by Eleanor and her husband for the manufacture of glass.
When did you move over to Leitchik?
Well, the premises behind Falcher were very restricted, and the access was very difficult for
more than one car.
Yes, and for the big vehicles, and some of the lorries were becoming quite big. So we decided to have to move. So by that time, John O'Hare had sold his garage to a man who had the bakery. He was an engineer, but he and his wife ran it. And I said I would like to buy it. Well, he said, make an offer. So I made an offer, and he got the basic garage. It didn't have any more height than it had, but it was the total area was the same. And I employed Alec Matheson, Ian Morrison, both gone now. And there was someone else, George McDermott, that's right. I had good relationship with all my employees.
And at what point in your life did you meet Morag?
I've got to go back to school now.
Okay.
Because Morag was one of a man's family of 6. There were 2 sisters and 4 brothers on a farm on Ardnamurchan in a Hostich. Do you know it?
I've not been across for ages. I'm not. No.
A Hostich. It's just, you go down to Portstewart, Kansana from there, but a Hostich was the field of the sighing winds.
Whoa.
Pure poetry.
Oh. Is that the area that's in the picture behind your head?
That's right, yes. The oldest boy was Ian, and he couldn't get higher education on Ardnamurchan, and they couldn't afford to send him to Oban, so they sent him over here to live with his uncle, who was the lightkeeper on Drumagao.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So Uncle Dougal was the lightkeeper there, and he had twin sons and a daughter. And I don't know how he managed it, but he agreed to take Ian as well. He had no wife. And the 4 of them lived in the cottages down there. Morag and her twin brothers and her uncle. And I got to know Ian very well. We just sort of gelled straight away. Yeah. And we were both of the same mind. Unfortunately, I should have concentrated on Gaelic with him, because he had a lot of Gaelic, and he was quite. At that time, Gaelic wasn't very encouraged.
Oh, it was in abeyance, yeah.
It wasn't encouraged at all. Anyway, Ian came here, and we paired off, and remained good friends for the rest of our lives. So when after we had sized one another up and liked one another, and got into quite a few adventures. Ian wrote to his mother, he phoned her every week, could he bring this friend on holiday? So I went over to a house and met all the family, including Ailey and Morag, who was the eldest of the family. And we kept in touch, not in a very amorous way to begin with, but latterly it was. And the result is Angus, whom we lost in a road accident, and Angus was a fine young man. Yes. And that's why Paul Grant has named his boat Angus.
I didn't know that. That's wonderful.
It's one of the few boats that's got a masculine name. Although there was a yacht in here, I made a point of finding out Christopher.
I wonder where that came from.
I don't know. But the week before, there was a cruise ship in called Columbus.
Oh.
And there was no connection with
Was
that.
there any cholera in the town afterwards at all?
Don't think so. But I found out the name of Christopher because she had such tall masts. You know what I mean by spreader?
Yes.
She had 5 spreaders on the main mast and 4 spreaders on the mizzen mast. I've never seen masts so tall and with the Bermuda rig. So that's the Columbus.
Lord Nelson went past the other day. I was standing at home watching her, and she's absolutely stunning.
Yes, great.
One of the things I love about that is that from ours, you stand looking out towards Rum and Muck and the Atlantic, and seeing a sailboat like that is exactly what someone, 100, 150, 200 years ago would have seen coming as well.
Yes.
I just love the sort of timeless nature of that. It's a thing of beauty. That's great. Aye. So when did you get married? What period was that?
Wasted a lot of time. We should have got married far earlier, but we didn't. However, it worked out very well. We had 2 lovely children and 2 lovely grandchildren.
Yes.
And we married into a big family. There were 6 of them altogether, the Macmillans. I couldn't speak Gaelic, but I liked the music, and Maury was fluent.
Her Gaelic is beautiful.
She helped me greatly.
Yeah.
And Janet MacDonald was very helpful. I had never sung a Gaelic song. I didn't know until in Mull. Couldn't sing it in Gaelic. I knew the English version. Maud was coming to Oban, and Janet said to me, "It's a great pity that we can't do something for the Maud when it's so near home. So if we started a choir, will you conduct and I'll be responsible for the Gaelic?" Or I forget who said what to whom. But that's how it started. And then I got very interested in the Gaelic songs and became persuaded to enter for the gold medal, the silver medal. Because by that time I was learning. I was studying Gaelic and trying to learn it. There was a family from Glasgow who had been brought up in Dervick, the Macmillans' sister. There was a family of 6, and 3 of them had won the gold medal. So they were very keen that I would go ahead. And Helen T., the eldest of them, Helen Taylor Macmillan, Taylor was my granny's maiden name in the Bellachroy. And the 2 mothers were very friendly.
Right, okay.
So Mrs. Macmillan asked my granny if you could use her name Taylor for this first daughter. I didn't know if it was a daughter, and it was, and as Helen T., marvellous singer. And she had a very husky voice when she was speaking, but when she was singing it was clear as a bell. She was a character, they all were characters. I was singing at Cayley and Derrick, and I sang Farran Roman Rare. And afterwards, Cayley, another sister, Anne, well, I said, I enjoyed Farran Roman Rare. She said, I sang it at Cayley in this hall the night before we left to go to Glasgow. And I was going back to my seat, and I about to leaned out and said, Catch and row and rare, Anna. I was she said, but I wasn't going to tell them. you come in and delete that.
That's lovely.
But it was very interesting. Far and row and rare, catch and row and rare. Different approach altogether.
Hanyanigiri gra. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Aye.
And then the mod came to Oban and we went with the choir. And Janet had been in charge of music and I was Gaelic and I was in charge of music. And blew me, we got a first and a third. First for music and a third for Gaelic or the other way round. Dr. Jones from Salen, Doctor, American.
Oh, who ended up in Salen, in Ulva?
Yes.
Aye, Ted.
And he said, we can't let this fall away. We must keep together and carry on making music, singing Gaelic songs. So we did. But it was he who decided not to. We had a dinner in the Isle of Mull Hotel, and they said, we can't let it fizzle out. We're all ready to go. And we got ready for the next mod. I forget where it was, but we did quite well in it too.
I've got a whole shelf full of Gaelic scholarly books, you know, the Gaelic Folio Society. My idea is when I'm older, I'll go through them and try and understand even more. I'm particularly interested in Alistair.
Yes.
Because there's something, I find his poetry, songs, more accessible than Sorley MacLean. There's an immediacy to it. It's Sorley MacLean, it's about the singing and about the presentation, a bit like that. And
No, I didn't. Sorley MacLean taught here.
How did you get on with him?
I didn't get on with him at all. He never mentioned Gaelic to me. He would come to the house and talk to my father in Gaelic, ignore my mother, ignore the family, and he was teaching me in school, supposed to be teaching me Latin. And eventually he said, this is not doing you any good, and it's not doing me any good. We'll just give you a free period. Instead of saying,
let's do some Gaelic.
And he was a Gaelic teacher. So I've never forgiven him for that.
No, I can understand that.
No, it was a golden opportunity. And he was a scholar. He could have taught me to read and write and speak it properly. But he didn't do anything at all for me.
Well, just very quickly, if it's okay to talk about your fiddle making, how did you come to, as a fiddle player, how did you learn the fiddle, and then how did you come to make your fiddles?
Well, my father played the fiddle, as well as being a very good bass singer. He played the fiddle well. And some relative of his, a Hugh MacGilp, was renowned for his fiddle playing. Now, I just heard of this quite recently. But my father was very keen, if I showed any aptitude for the fiddle, to teach me. And he showed me how to pick the notes with just without a bow. And he went to Glasgow and I brought back a wee fiddle for me, and I loved it. And I spent a lot of time playing this wee fiddle, and eventually he bought my full size. And then I went to Oban School, took a fiddle with me, went from there to the army and left my fiddle in Oban. So I never saw it again. Don't know what happened.
Oh, that's rubbish. Yeah.
Anyway, I decided to make one. Moira's got it. I gave it to Moira. I sold them all, except that one, and my own. I didn't sell Moira's. I did that, and she played it quite well. Mm-hmm.
And what was it like? What is it like to be there at the birth of a fiddle, to kind of bring it into, because it's such an intimate relationship you have with it as a.
That's right.
You know, it's a.
Yes.
It's not, you don't play from the brain. You play from somewhere kind of down here.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What is it like shaping that?
Well, the shaping is just all mechanical.
Really?
But playing it is a spiritual experience. When you reach that stage of making a tune with this bit of wood, or these bits of wood, 52 of them. I think there are 52 bits of wood in it altogether.
Well, I won't take up any more of your time. That's been 1 hour and 10 minutes, which has just been an absolute honour and a delight. Thank you so much.
We haven't covered very much of it yet.
Well, if it's all right, I'll come back another day.
Yes, that'll be fine.
Well, thank you very much for having listened to the podcast all the way through, and thank you again to Duncan. And it was an absolute delight to spend time with Duncan. And his wife Morag appeared later on in the recording as well. It was lovely to see her, and Moira, their daughter, and Daisy the wee Doug as well, who was great. So a couple of things we talked about in the podcast that are maybe worth mentioning. I talked about Alistair McVeister Alistair, and there's a fantastic book, if you can find it, called Alexander MacDonald, Bard of the Gaelic Enlightenment, and it's by Camille Dressler and D.W. Stewart. It's extraordinary. It's a really, really good book. It's published by the Islands Book Trust, and it's a really great resource on Alistair McVeister Alistair's work and life. Really, really worth checking out. The other books I mentioned again at the start were Timothy Neat's When I Was Young series. So there's 2 in the series. There was When I Was Young, The Islands, and then there's When I Was Young, The Highlands and East Coast, both of which are published by Beerling. Yeah. So this is the first of the podcasts that I've recorded. And I've got 5 recordings done so far, and I'm looking to talk to more people. I've got a database of dozens and dozens of people to talk to from all over the islands, and I'm keen to explore beyond Mull, Iona, Ulva, Gomitra. I'd like to get out all across the islands and west coast of Scotland if possible at all, maybe even venture out into the east coast one day, or even Shetland or Orkney, who knows. But I just like to find time to allow people to hear other people's stories. Now, the podcast has been sponsored by the Island Bakery, as I said, for whom thank you very much. And again, I recommend lemon melts. But the sponsorship has paid for hosting on the web, which is brilliant. But the amount of time it takes to edit one of these podcasts is quite a significant amount of time. So if you felt like donating, you're more than welcome to do so. You can visit the What We Do in the Winter webpage. You'll find it on WordPress, whatwedoointhewinter.wordpress.com, and have a look there. And there's a donate link there. If you wanted to donate the price of a cup of coffee, wherever you are, you're more than welcome to do so. I would really appreciate that. It takes several hours to edit these down. But if you can't donate anything at all, don't worry. I'd much rather you just listen and enjoyed. Over the coming weeks, I'm looking forward to sharing interviews with a diverse range of people with you. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to speaking to you again. And if you want anything, drop me a line, whatwedointhewinter@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook. There's also the website, whatwedointhewinter.wordpress.com. And I'd like to thank Moira for helping arrange all of this earlier on with Duncan. I'd like to thank Georgia, my wife, for all of her time and expertise, and I'd like to thank the early listeners as well for their words of advice. So thank you, Colin and crew. Many thank yous. See you all again. Cheers. Bye bye.